Okay, I think we'll get started here. Good morning, everyone. My name is Maddie Gwitt, and I'm the marketing manager for QLF Agronomy. And I just want to start by thanking all of you for joining us today for the first webinar in our 2025 QLF Agronomy webinar series. We're excited to kick off the series, and I appreciate you taking the time to be here this morning. Today, I'm joined by Tim Chitwood, our VP of Agronomy, and Steve Knorr from Farmer's Choice Seed in Minot, North Dakota. We'll start with a brief introduction from Tim and Steve before diving into today's presentation. Throughout the presentation, if you have any questions at all, feel free to drop them in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll make sure to address those during the Q&A session at the end. So with that, we'll get started. So Steve and Tim, I'll hand it over to you now.
Okay, thank you, Maddie. Steve, why don't you go ahead and advance your slide? I wanted to kind of kick this off with a quick little question. You're probably going to get into explaining who Farmer's Choice is and a little bit more about who Steve Knorr is. But the question we talked about here last night in preparation for today was, Steve, why are you building retail stores in today's agricultural climate? We've enjoyed our partnership with you. We've worked with Steve for a few years now, and your business has just exploded with us. But just curious how Farmer's Choice came about, and what's your story?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Obviously excited to be on this morning and share a story. Hopefully it's a good one, and you guys can take something from it. Obviously a farmer, a fourth generation farmer here in North Dakota, and been in production ag for over 25 years on a irrigated farm here in North Dakota. And for years, my passion was agriculture, farming, and growing better crops. And obviously I got a degree from North Dakota State University in crop and weed science. And like I say, wanted a farm. And through that process, over the first 18 years was working with different associations, ag retailers, co-ops, and trying to advance my farm. And through that process, I felt there was a lacking in regards to advancing agriculture with some of the relationships I had in the industry. And I really wanted to take it to the next level of really defining value and bringing value not only to my own farm, but to my friends, family, and neighbors. And that was kind of the start of Farmer's Choice. So we're in our 8th year, coming into our 8th year of a business. We've grown rapidly. We have brick and mortar storefronts to supply products that we believe are top notch. And really our methodology has been is really understanding these products, the benefits of them, the background of the companies that we work with, and then bringing them to our own farms where we vet them and really put the test to them, not in a small test plot, but half sections or quarter sections, and really understand how these products work in our soil that's in our backyards, it's in our region. A lot of the data we get comes from the I states on corn and soybeans, and we have a different dirt here. So at the end of the day, we really bring that value proposition by understanding our products, by vetting them, testing them in our soils and our backyards, and bringing that to bear to our customer portfolio. So.
Well, I'm really excited for you to get into the presentation you have for us today. It's kind of fun to sit back and learn from Steve. His experiences is why we have him here today, to give a little more insight and education about the future for carbon smart farming and be able to maybe market our crops into the biofuel industry. I'm excited, Steve, to go ahead and get to it, and we'll have questions at the end.
Yeah, so obviously going to talk about carbon smart farming and carbon intensity today, and that relationship between the two. Like I say, we've been really, my company, Farmer's Choice, has been on the forefront. I shouldn't say forefront, but at the leading edge of where opportunities are in this space and how that plays with on-farm products, et cetera, to really drive down a carbon intensity score. So we're going to talk about that today. Part of the presentation is a program called Ag Vision Max that Farmer's Choice developed with the help of folks like Tim in regards to the products and placements. Ag Vision Max is really a scripted playbook that really helps that carbon-based program. It's what it is a carbon-based program that really brings value in this CI event. So we'll hop right into it. But first I want to talk about the carbon landscape and what that means. And there's a lot of folks, a lot of farmers that really don't understand this space. And like I say, there's huge opportunity on the horizon. And we want to bring that to bear at our location here in North Dakota, in Montana. We actually have a storefront in Montana as well. But really 3 kind of buckets: carbon offsets, carbon insets, and carbon intensity. And we're going to spend a little more time on carbon intensity because I'm a corn farmer and we have 5 ethanol plants in our state, and a good majority of our corn that we grow goes to those ethanol plants. So we're going to spend a little more time on carbon intensity. But obviously a carbon offset is, voluntary carbon credits sold globally to anyone. It's tons of CO2 sold by a registry. Like I say, it's a program that is built around these 10-year contracts, which, like I say, there's some understanding how these different programs play. Sometimes, obviously, if I've been no-tilling for a decade, guess what? There's really some not value there because I need to convert to a no-till opportunity. So really understanding those programs. Carbon insets, obviously, is more of a supply chain on carbon tons. And typically, we like those because they're 1 to 3 year contracts. So if we enter into those spaces, we can, really vet them, understand them, and then we can back out of them if we want to after that 1 or 3 year period. Carbon intensity is more of the new opportunity that came about in the Inflation Reduction Act with the GREET model. And that's where the biofuel companies come in. And that's really a footprint on a per bushel basis. And at the end of the day, we're working through the guidance right now from the government, and really it's been kind of cumbersome. There's a comment period open now, and we need guys to comment on it and really drive the direction that really works for us as farmers. But we like about carbon intensity, it's a bushel that we grow every year. It's not a combination of years or practices, but actually what we do in that field in the year we produce those bushels. So the monetary opportunity, like I say, we're going to spend a little more time on the carbon intensity, but where that comes from is in the Inflation Reduction Act, there were several things that were passed. 40B, maybe you've heard of those. That was Climate Smart Ag. That was for the SAP opportunity. That was a 1-year deal. That's done now. There was 45Q, which was basically we call it a scope 1 reduction. And as you see here in this slide, we've got federal government and we've got a biofuel manufacturer. And how they look at these is really in 3 different buckets. Scope 1 is really direct carbon reduction, such as these CO2 pipelines they talk about. Summit Pipeline. Here in my state, we had the first 2 ethanol plants that actually are sequestering CO2 in the ground. So that would be a scope 1 reduction. A scope 2 reduction would be like a renewable energy at those locations and or a combined heat and power, something that gives them efficiency at these locations or biofuel companies. And then scope 3 is the feedstock. Okay, that's where we come in, where I come in, the farmer is a feedstock, the bushel of grain we produce. And right now in this opportunity in 45Z, the Department of Energy came out with a model called GREET. And really they kind of set some standardizations or methodology of how we measure that energy it takes to produce a bushel of corn. And right now across our country, everybody that's a corn producer starts at 29.1. Okay, so that's kind of our starting number. And everything below that number, if you can reduce that number, is going to be a benefit in this opportunity. And we'll get into that more at the end. But like I say, it's a huge opportunity. Where we're at today in this space is what should we do? I mean, like I say, at the end of the day, a lot of farmers don't understand where this space is at, where it's coming to, and how do I get in front of it, because it's a huge opportunity. So really, farmers, we talk about, we preach this to them. Hey, know your CI scores. Farmer's Choice, my ag retail company, partnered with another entity called Continuum Ag. And I think, Tim, you've had, some webinars with Mitchell in the past. Mitchell is a 7th generation farmer that really had foresight in regards to, hey, there's going to be an opportunity down the road. How do we capitalize on it for farmers? And sometimes farmers, we don't advocate very well for ourselves, and we miss some of the opportunities that are in this space. So once again, he kind of formed this company to really mimic this GREET model methodology and built software that really is easy for us farmers to plug and play our input practices, our synthetic inputs, and really kick out a score. And that score, like I say, is hopefully lower than 29.1, because there's the value proposition. If I can lower the score, there's potential for value. Now, that value today is a tax credit that goes back to the biofuel company. What we've been advocating for is, okay, Mr. Biofuel Plant Company, we'll give you our data, and actually, I actually take that back. We will give you a certificate or a biofeedstock report that has value, that's vetted, that's validated, and guess what? You give me something out of this tax credit. Here's where the value is for me as a farmer. Basically, it's 5.5 cents per point of reduction. So at the end of the day, we all start at 29.1, and I drop that score. Every point of reduction is 5.5 cents per bushel. Okay, so on my farm, and we'll get to the last end slide here and walk through that of what that looks like in total value. I want to spend a little bit of time on this slide. So Ag Visions, we've got this CI opportunity. How do I lower my score? And it's several different buckets. It's reducing your tillage. It is reducing your synthetic inputs. It's looking at a cover crop. It could be a stabilizer. So like I said, some of this guidance we're waiting from the government is going to be kicking out here, hopefully in the next 90 days, on what really constitutes this, how we lower the score. But I like this slide because it really talks about our soil, and it starts there. There's a chemical component, a biological, and a physical component of our soil. And really, what are the driving forces in our soils that are going to make us more resilient, give us more nutrient efficiency, and obviously grow more bushels? And at the end of the day, we really look at these three pools: that total pool, extractable pool, and plant available pool. That total pool is your organic matter, right? What we know today is some of these inputs we've been putting down as farmers is we're not getting all of those inputs out of that investment, and they're getting tied up in our soil. So we'll walk a little further into this as we get into Ag Vision. Interesting. I graduated 25 years ago from the university, and I was taught it was 1.2 pounds a bushel per N of corn. It was 2.2 pounds of nitrogen per bushel of wheat. This was my academia education. And what's interesting to me is a lot of the academia is coming out with more information as far as the investments we make as farmers. And I really like this slide. This was out of University of Illinois. And basically the study shows that corn takes up the majority of its nitrogen, about 67% on average, from sources occurring naturally in the soil, not from applied fertilizer. And as we look at our inputs, obviously nitrogen is one of the big ones. So at the end of the day, how can I better that? How can I get more use out of that applied nitrogen, whether it's in a fall application, a spring application, or in a split applied? And this matters obviously also in that CI score. If we can reduce that NUE, nitrogen use efficiency, that's going to lower our CI score for that potential revenue that will be greater at the end of the production year. So yeah, obviously a lot of guys in North Dakota, we're still using anhydrous. Only 21% of it made into the grain. On a broadcast urea spread, which that's kind of the big move, guys have switched from anhydrous moving to a urea, only 34% of it made into the crop. And obviously the greatest use is obviously an applied UAN in a banded approach with 46%. So we'll talk about how we get better use efficiencies, and that's going to come into play with products like Boost and 721.3, products from QLF, liquid carbon-based fertilizers. So once again, with academia, with knowledge just on farm, how do we get better? We are in a tight commodity year, meaning prices have been depressed. The farm economy is down. And as I look at our spend dollars, and I'm putting my farmer hat on now, and this is kind of a pie chart of where my dollars go on farm. About 10% into seed, 10% into nutritional type products, 40% into fertilizer, and 40% into chemical. And as I look at these buckets, I think, holy man, if I'm only getting 20 to 30 cents on the dollar in some of these applied nutrients, such as a MAP or a DAP or nitrogen, urea, and anhydrous, man, and especially the nitrogen component, because like I say, mobile nutrients, nitrogen, sulfur, we can lose those. And at the end of the day, we're finding more of it in the Gulf of Mexico. But where can I spend my dollars wisely? Where can I get more bang for my buck? So I like this slide to say, hey, is there an opportunity to pull some of those dollars and put them into the right buckets? And like I say, that's going to be key for liquid carbon-based fertilizers. And we really want to put money towards those things that really bring us value. So we want to unlock the opportunity in our soils, and we believe that's a carbon-based program. And that's what AgVision Max is. AgVision Max was a kind of a think tank of agronomists and folks. Tim was part of that as far as putting together a program that is scripted, that can be executable by the growers, right? There's a lot of markets on the space, or a lot of products in the market today. Which ones work, which ones don't, which is going to bring that program that's going to be bringing the most benefit to my acre. And I don't care what crop it is, corn, soybeans, wheat. We grow 14 different commodities here in North Dakota. But AgVision is basically a carbon-based program. And what has QLF got for me? It's got liquid carbon-based fertilizer. So really, it's been a great partnership working with Tim and the team there as far as bringing those type products into our AgVision Max program. So goals of the program: reduce synthetic fertility. Hey, that helps me my CI score. Increase soil biology. We're learning more and more about our soil biology, that rhizosphere, how we ink influence, how we can make it flourish. Obviously, yes, we want to maintain or gain yield. And the bottom line for me as a farmer is an increased ROI. So this program obviously wanted to make the easy button, right? It's farmers sometimes, like I say, we're the laborer, we're the accountant, we're the agronomist, we play all these different hats, and we don't have time to really dial in. And what we want to do is create that easy button with this program. But these are some of the things we want to accomplish in the AgVision program. And a lot of bullet points here. The idea is, how do we measure those, whether it's observationally or through soil tests or tissue tests? And we bring all that to play in this program. Like I say, at the end of the day, is there an ROI? And one, it's difficult for me as a farmer to understand, hey, did I get an ROI? Was it one product, two products, three products that brought me that ROI? But we look at this as kind of a sequenced approach, not a stacked approach. I don't need 4 products that all give me 4 bushel, like I say, and then I end up in the other and I only get 4 bushels. So we really look at the products that are going to stack together well and play well together to build that soil resiliency and those bullet points we had on that previous slide. But here's some of the ROIs. $112 on corn, $62 on beans, wheat at $26. So it's important for us at Farmer's Choice to really prove the ROI on farm. These are farmer trials. These aren't test plots, university plots. These are farm-driven trials. So let's get into it. Obviously, great to be part of the webinar today with QLF, and I'm excited. And of all the products I have in my portfolio that are in AgVision Max program, the Boost, the 721.3, the carbon-based products are slam dunk. We've seen it time and time again. Like I say, we go through a 2-year vetting process on products before we bring them in our portfolio. And like I say, this one is my favorite one as far as in our programs. So what did we learn? So we run these programs like an AgVision, and we want to be, farmers are observational. What did I see, right? What did I see during the growing years? So we spend a lot of time with my agronomists, and we're out kicking tires in the fields, and we're there from basically emergence all the way to the end of the year. And here's some of the observations we saw. So obviously a 721.3, that's QLF's monopotassium phosphate. For me as a producer for 20 years, I was a 1034 guy. Okay, high salt or polyphosphate product that I believed in. I believed in starter fertilizer, but like I say, we found a better one with 721.3. And as you can see in this picture, the plant health between the 1034 with zinc compared to our 721.3 with corn spike. Once again, a lot of our growers here in the upper Midwest using the old product 1040, and once again, observationally, it just seems like every year that I can convert it from 1034 into the 721, they see it observationally, and they're off to the races with that product going forward. So as you can see in this picture, once again, right side of 1034, left a 721.3 carbon-based starter fertilizer. And at the end of the day, we're up and out of the ground faster. And it's important for me and our growers in the Northern Corn Belt. We lack days. We don't have the GDUs, so we need to get that corn up and out of the ground fast in our cold soils and get it to maturity here in the fall to have a decent harvest. So what 721-3, what I like about it, obviously it's just a balanced, concentrated, it brings the carbon that I'm looking for. And it's just been a slam dunk product for us. Like I say, at the end of the day, I was a guy that was using, and I'm going to speak off cuff, I'm putting my farmer hat on here. I was, a guy that used Bifincher, Capture LFR for in-furrow treatments. I'm using 721-3, and I've pulled that back out. And we'll get into a slide here later on bugs. But nevertheless, it just brings so much more beneficial, bringing that carbon into that rhizosphere early, getting phosphorus available to that plant early season. And like I say, that early emergence, that uniform plant stand, 1034-0 for me, I would guarantee I was losing 15 to 2,000 plants a year just from salt injury and placement of that fertility. And I don't get that with 721-3 anymore. And our growers are seeing the same thing. And that's one thing. To me, obviously, corn starts with field conditions, plant performance, and even emergence. And if I don't have the plants there, or if I don't have that even emergence, I'm going backwards in that yield event at year end. Once again, nutrient use efficiency. And that's, like I say, the benefit of carbon-based fertility is bringing that use efficiency along with that input. And once again, you can see in the pictures, just healthy plants up and out of the ground, better color, basically soil hanging onto roots. So once again, observations are worth 1,000 words, I guess. Important for me, once again, for us in the Northern Corn Belt, we need to get corn up and out of the ground fast. Like I said, my preach to my clients or my growers is always, hey guys, if you're not using a starter fertilizer, you're going to have wetter corn in the fall of the year. And this picture exactly shows that. You've got a pollinated, all the silk have dropped off to the cob to the right. On the left, we've got silk still hanging on. We're behind, and we can't afford to be behind in a production year, especially in our Northern Corn Belt. Once again, healthy rhizosphere, how the dirt hangs on to those roots is important. Root mass, obviously, like I say, just this is what we see time and time again using a product like 721-3. If we can build that healthy root, we're going to create resiliency in that plant. Obviously, the movement of fertility up and down that plant is important. Like I say, we see this time and time again with our Egg Vision program, our carbon-based program, bigger stalks, more xylem, more phloem, more movement of water and nutrients up and down that plant. Ear leaf, this is a big thing. I don't care what crop. The goal of green material on our plant is to capture solar radiation and convert it to sugar. And at the end of the day, if I can make bigger solar panels, guess what? I'm going to make more yield year end. So simple, we make it simple for our growers. We put together this scripted playbook. Basically, it's a 5-step process for our Egg Vision Max corn. And what we're able to do without even looking at most guys' soil tests, we can give a blanket recommendation for reduction of fertilizer reduction. That's what you see in the bottom left there. 30 to 40 pounds of N, 20 to 30 pounds of P, and 30 to 40 pounds of K. And once again, this ties back to that carbon intensity score. If I can lower my synthetic inputs, I'm going to have a greater score and, like I say, maintain or increase that yield potential. And what we've done with this program is we've proved it time and time again that we can do that with these reductions. And like I say, we've been successful at it for the last 3 years. Once again, Egg Vision Max, we're looking at drought resilience. That's important for the dryland farmers. Obviously, nutrient uptake, nutrient cycling, increased yield potential, disease reduction. These are the benefits of a program, Egg Vision program, which, like I say, is a carbon-based program. And I like this picture because the plant on the left, obviously, is the Egg Vision one. The plant on the right is the check. And as you can see, this plant on the right is cannibalizing itself. Its job in this reproductive side is to continue to build sugars into that cob. And when it can't get it out of the ground, it's going to start taking those lower leaf tissues and pulling those sugars back into that plant. So we want a healthy plant all the way into that late season. Here's a picture that Tim took this spring in North Dakota. Obviously, it's a picture of me being scientific. My agronomists carry refractometers. And for those of you that don't know what a refractometer is, we're able to measure Brix level in plant tissue. So Tim got me some nice pictures here of doing the scientific work. But why is that important? What's important about Brix and the measure of sugar is we're learning a lot more. And like I say, we want to build Brix in our plants, and for these reasons: disease mitigation, insect mitigation, herbicide injury, feeding the bugs, and also filling your grain seed size. I can influence corn in several different stages. At that 4 to 6 leaf the girth is being determined on that corn plant. At 10 to 12, the length of that cob is being set. But also late season, the kernel depth. And that's why it's important to build that healthy rhizosphere, to build a healthy plant, to feed it through the season, to continue to move sugars into those kernels, to build kernel depth, because we can pick up yield in kernel depth. And I don't care what crop it is. Soybeans, same thing. Wheat, same thing. So we really look at Brix. The 13 Brix, this was actually in a field in North Dakota. And we'll walk into a slide here shortly about why that's important to get our Brix up in these plants. Once again, pictures. What in ROIs, and as you can see, this was a field we just moved out to Sidney, Montana here a year ago, opened a storefront, and we've got growers doing these adoptions. Once again, it's not 10 by 40 foot plots, it's actually fields of trial work. And this picture shows the checks are on the left and right, and the egg vision is in the center, and it was about an 8 to 9 bushel yield increase between the checks. So soybeans, same thing. We want to make it simple, guys. We're gonna create a playbook for you, and we're gonna do these steps, and we're gonna execute this program and have an ROI at the year end. Really like this slide because it tells a story, and I love getting these from our growers throughout the season, whether it's observational differences they see in the field or what I'm with them. But the real fun part comes at year end when they're in their combines. We as farmers, we put our energy. We're gambling. I mean, there's so many variables, weather events, disease, etc. But it all comes down to this event when we're running the combines through our fields. And here's a quick picture of a snapshot, a text picture from a grower, and first year into egg vision soybeans, and basically, I guarantee the best beans this ground has ever seen, and that's music to my ears. I just, like I said, the value, and that was the reason of starting Farmer's Choice, was to really drive value, to bring value back to our growers. Interesting to kind of the picture to the right. How do we mitigate herbicide injury? I think this is a really important piece of what we're doing with a product like Boost. And as you can see, the picture on the right, the grower, we were there, Tim was there. We said, go out, grab plants out of the side that had no Boost, and then go over here and let's grab some plants. And the grower did it. We didn't go pick the plants. The grower went out and then grabbed the plants from the field. We came back and put them on the ground and took pictures. And you can see to the right, the injury to that soybean plant. And we're learning so much more about chemistry when we spray it. That plant has to metabolize. I don't care if it's Roundup resistant, if it's glyphosate or glufosinate resistant. At the end of the day, it has to metabolize those chemistries. And if we can give that plant a better chance of mitigating those injuries or delays of photosynthetic activity, we're going to make better plants and in return have a better yield event year end. And we're really excited about Boost. I put Boost on every time my sprayer is going across. I don't care if it's a fertility pass, a chemistry pass, I'm adding Boost in with that pass. So really love Boost. I think I've told Tim that enough. So okay, proof positive once again for crop safety. Burner chemistry and Boost. There's a difference. And I'm telling you, every grower that we get on the Boost program, guess what? That we're putting up tanks in their farm. They're bringing in tanker loads because they're doing the inclusion. And time and time again, we see this. Hey, where I didn't use the Boost in my chemistry, guess what? I've got delay. And it's, once again, important for me in the northern corn belt or soybean belt, the fact that I can't give up days of photosynthetic activity. I can't give those up. I don't have the day lengths in our season up here to grow better crops. So anything we can do to mitigate that is absolutely beneficial for sure up here in North Dakota. Once again, you can see the pictures. Okay, so just talked about boosting plant metabolism, hitting your target. So the things I see in Boost, and this is my perspective as a farmer and also as an egg retailer. One, I'm using Boost as an anti-drift spreader sticker, right? Perfect. I love to spray. Guess what? At 18-mile-an-hour winds, I can go and put a gallon of inclusion of Boost in my spray pass, and I'm on target. And we get a lot of wind up here in North Dakota, in Montana. So at the end of the day, it helps me hit acres. Secondarily, obviously mitigating that herbicide injury. Like I say, you saw the pictures. Perfect thing to mitigate the herbicide injury. And then that stress mitigation, obviously, just better coloring, reduce cupping, increase vegetative growth. Right? How to get that plant up and going faster after we spray chemistry. So really has been a great product in the chemistry. Like I say, at a minimum, start guys there. Hey, throw it in with the chemistry pass. Like I say, they'll move towards, hey, I'm doing every pass, I'm going to put Boost in. So, but great place to start with your growers is the chemistry side. Once again, the yield difference, obviously this slide is showing 4.6 bushel from a treatment A to treatment B. So carbon-based fertilizer Boost, 721.3, big components of our program here in Ag Vision. Like I say, it's really the core of our carbon-based approach, bringing that fertility, bringing chemistry, all with a carbon product such as Boost. Like I say, at the end of the day, we're working on this rhizosphere, stimulating soil biology, improving the nutrient availability. We've got guys now that are moving away from their urea or anhydrous, moving to a 2x2 placement with UAN, and they're bringing in Boost. They're using that product to stabilize and help the nutrient efficiency in that rhizosphere of their nitrogen program with Boost. So once again, lowering their CI score. Okay, other benefits of Boost, obviously strong buffering with Boost. A lot of our guys up here, we're giving them a pH tester and saying, hey, test your final solution or your water source, rural water, groundwater. They all can have different pHs. But once again, the benefit of Boost is we can buffer those things. We want to spray most of our chemistries in that 5.2 to 6.2. If I'm using a biological in solution, I need to be at 5.2, 6.2. In a pH, otherwise I could be losing biology. So great product to buffer our chemistries and foliar nutritional passes with the water that we could be using in our backyard. So once again, treat the solution, not the acre. I'm a big Acuron guy. Once again, I always do a jar test, but nevertheless it mixes well, gets me on target. I have some of the best weed control that I've had in the last 3-4 years. I've been using Boost. Prior to that, like I say, the weed escapes. I just have a better weed control by bringing that Boost inclusion in with my chemistry passes. But I always do a jar test, make sure it mixes well. Same thing. Obviously, Boost is stabilizing that ammonium nitrate, urea, obviously. By dropping that pH, as you can see this chart here, we've got different inclusions and bringing that pH down to a 3.69. I store a lot of nitrogen on farm through the winter months. I know QLF has done a lot of studies on this, but as I pre-buy my 28, bring it in, and I'm putting my inclusion of Boost to help stabilize that nitrogen as I store it through the winter months. The smell tests, once again, if you've actually opened up the top of your tank and smelled a UAN type product, obviously that strong ammonium smell. How do we stabilize that ammonium cell? And once again, we've got samples, and I actually have them on my desk. A straight UAN 28% and a UAN 20% with inclusion of Boost. And I always open the covers and smell put that in front of your growers' noses and they say, holy man, there is a difference. So that volatility makes a huge difference. So just tools in the toolbox to show guys why this is important. Same thing. So Ag Vision Max was a program, a carbon-based program, and carbon is keystone in nutrient cycling, bringing carbon. And for years, guys, I called myself a moron. I was applying more synthetic nutrients to go after those yield events. And in the last 5 years, I've changed my philosophy. It's about bringing carbon with these inputs, these synthetic inputs, to create more efficiency, to create more balance in our soils, to allow that natural cycle. Like I say, go back to that study, or organic N. 67% of that corn needs are coming from organic N. And at the end of the day, how do I help that process? And it's key about bringing carbon with these products. And that's what we love about QLF and the products they have, is they are liquid carbon-based fertilizers. So once again, we showed pictures of observations. We showed, the methodology of how we execute the programs. But at the end of the day, what is also the measurables? And we look at, and like I say, a lot of guys are getting these on their soil tests, but we call them H23s or the Haney test of biological activity. And once again, we want to show guys there's a difference between doing a carbon-based program such as Ag Vision compared to the standard grower practice. And so here's just some numbers here that we've accumulated here this last year. The AV is the Ag Vision, check is the control. Like I say, here's soybeans and corn. Corn was a big jump. 15-point difference in our biological activity for that crop. And when we have more biological activity, that means we have more nutrient cycling, and therefore, bringing those a healthier crop. One we're looking at, academia is coming around to this. We call it water extracted organic carbon, and this is actually what we believe the food for the bugs. Right? If we can get it into that form. So organic matter, but actually breaking that down further into water extracted organic carbon. That's the food source for our bugs. So we use this as a measurable in our soil tests, looking at that number. And once again, we show a greater number in our Ag Vision side compared to our check. And when we know we have good WEOC levels, guess what? We've got the nutrient cycling happening in our soils. CSAT, that is, we call it WEOC divided by our CEC. Most of the soil tests from the co-ops up here in North Dakota, they give us a CSC, the cation exchange capacity, but we bring that in with the WEOC as well and create that number. And once again, obviously a little less in our soybeans, but Ag Vision, we had a difference on the corn. So we'd like to get that number above 10. If we can get that number a bit above 10, we feel we're going to have a better nutrient cycling program in our soil. Okay, obviously phosphorus. Once again, the soil test we've been using here in North Dakota, basically we look at an Olson or a Bray or a Malek test. An Olson test, once again, they take those soils in, use strong acids, knock off that P molecule, and give us a parts per million. And what's interesting is we use those numbers to kind of guide us. And at the end of the day, we want to dive deeper, and we look at an H3A level, which is plant available form phosphorus. And once again, we blew it off the charts here with our Ag Vision program compared to the checks. 28 difference on soybeans and a 20-point difference on our corn. Obviously, the form of phosphorus our plants take up is P2O5. We can measure that as well in that form. Big difference between our check and treated on corn and soybeans. Obviously, same thing, potassium is a macronutrient, big jump here as well in our potassium availability. Big thing for us in North Dakota is we have high potassium in our soil in Western North Dakota, and most of the recommendations is, hey, we don't need to put potassium down, but year in, our potassium is tied up. We have tight clay soils, and we get dry in late season, and we shorter crop potassium late season, so we want to drive potassium availability in plant available form. Comes down to this, a soil health score in our metrics. We give it a soil health score, and we want to see a difference there in our Ag Vision. And the soil health score is a combination of all those things, WEOC, CSAT. There's other metrics we pull in that we didn't go through, but gives us kind of an overall gauge of our soil health. Once again, how does your fertilizer program affect soil health? And what we're learning is, guess what? We've been kind of going backwards by pounding our synthetic inputs. We need to bring them with a carbon source. Carbon is key, carbon is key, carbon is key. How do we do that? Guess what? We've got a product through QLF, liquid carbon-based fertilizers that can do that for us. Like I say, that resiliency. How do we make more of a resilient soil? We all go through stress events, drought, abiotic, biotic stresses. We want to create resilient soil. Carbon's going to do that for us. Once again, now the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties is toughness. We want to make our soils tough. So we walk through now, obviously, the kind of landscape of carbon in the monetary side, this 45Z opportunity. We've walked through a program that we call Ag Vision that is built on carbon-based products that can lower that score. The key, obviously, here at the end takeaway is how do we go forward? And right now, data is the key. So visibility, know your score. We can give you that today. There's programs like Continuum. You can actually go on the Department of Energy website and try to figure out the score on your own. I have not done that personally. I like the topsoil tool because it really can, within 15, 20 minutes, I can get a score on my grower standard practices and say where I'm at today. Control your data. We don't want to give that data up, because if we give the data up, then we lose our leverage to monetize that data. So as we look at these, whether they're voluntary or carbon programs, so that controlling your data is important. So keep your data and figure out that pathway. And then obviously position yourself for the reward, capitalize on these opportunities. And we'll walk into here, this next slide, on how I do that on my farm and how I'm doing that for my customers. So here's a grower. This was his year one. So he did an Ag Vision program, did his reductions in synthetic inputs on what we said he could do. And he grew the best corn crop he had ever grown. So this was his score year end. And this is basically a tool. We call it our topsoil tool with Continuum, that we can go in and put all his farm inputs in, his practices, and create a score. So as you can see, the number on the left is a 10.78. So remember when I said everybody starts as a corn farmer at 29.1. So basically that reduction from 29.1 to 10.78 is $167 an acre in value. That's 99 cents a bushel. Okay, that's the tax credit value that's going to go back to the biofuel company. Right now, we're engaged in North Dakota with 3 ethanol plants on how the grower is going to benefit from it, because that value comes back to the biofuel company. And what the unique opportunity in 45Z is they allow these tax credits to be sold in the private public sector. So the biofuel company, if he doesn't have a tax liability, the tax credit's not good to him, but he's allowed to sell that into the market space. And right now they think they can get probably 80 to 90 cents on the dollar for those tax credits. So there will be a devalue there, probably about 10%. But we're advocating right now we're in conversation, at a minimum, give us half that. Give grower half that value, and we're getting good response. Now, we're waiting for the methodology and the government to finish up this guidance. Once we have that, yes, the ethanol plant saying, hey, once we know that this is the true value and this is the methodology, yes, now we can actually give you, the grower, that value if you can give us this data, right? In a carbon intensity certificate, we call it, and or a biofeedstock report. So 167, in my 25 years of growing corn, I've never had an opportunity like this, right? If I got half that as a grower, that would be a game-changing event for me on my farm. The number to the right is this grower obviously did it with his synthetic reductions, his passes across his field. The number to the right is actually adding in a cover crop. He did not do a cover crop in 24. To get that number, or to get a cover crop value, you've got to do it the previous years. So coming into 25, you would have had it done it this fall. And once again, this is some of the things we miss as farmers. Hey, I didn't know about this. I didn't do a cover crop, so I'm going to miss that opportunity for my 25 production, but I need to get prepared here in 25 fall to do a cover crop. So just by adding a cover crop in, you dropped it almost another 6 points. That number now is $225 an acre, or $1.33 a bushel of value creation. Once again, that's the total value. Our goal is to get a minimum of half that. Here's my score on my farm. Once again, I'm an irrigated farmer. My score ended at 9.9 this last year in 24. And actually, I did do a cover crop. So did the Ag Vision program, landed at a 9.9, did the cover crop, and now my score is a 4.81. I grow 200 plus bushel corn every year, $288 of value creation, $1.31 a bushel. So huge opportunity, guys. Like I say, where we're at in this space is we're waiting for some guidance right now from the USDA and Treasury and Department of Energy. We're in a comment period. We think once we get the comments in, they'll move towards the final rulings, and we're ready to go. This started January 1 of 2025. Okay, so actually bushels you grew in 24 would qualify for the tax credit. So whether you have a low score in 24, that's something you probably need to get in front of and understand what that score was in 2024. But the key now is to get ready for 2025. What can I do in 25 to lower my score? And guys, you need to bring in that carbon-based approach. Once again, our partner with QLF has brought a huge opportunity for us in our program with Ag Vision, and you can do that on your own farms or your customer farms. Well, that being said, we're at, I think, 10:49. So we'll open, I guess, Mandy for questions. But once again, thanks for the opportunity. Thanks, Tim. We've had a great partnership with QLF and really looking forward to the future of our opportunity working with carbon-based fertilizer from QLF.
I'll just add to Steve's talk here real quick. I really appreciate the hard work that Steve Knorr does as an advocate for agriculture. That was the big reason why we chose to have him present to you all. And I think he's presented a pretty good case as a path forward. We all know the importance of biofuels in our industry. And there's just a lot of hard work behind the scenes that a guy like Steve is doing. So you got my vote, Steve. If you ever run for office, I think you're doing a great job. But yeah, let's open it up to questions. Appreciate the presentation. It was really good.
Yeah, so if there's any questions, you guys can feel free to drop those in the chat or the Q&A. And we'll leave that open for the next couple minutes if any of you have questions.
I have a question for Steve. Steve, what's the temperature actually outside the room you're sitting in?
29 below zero. That's actual. That's without wind chill.
Yeah. And Maddie, we recorded this video, which we plan to use and distribute later. Maybe there's more information you could share about that.
Yeah, the recording will be posted on our YouTube, and then it'll also be going out to an e-blast and on our social media site pages as well.
Awesome. How about this question, Steve? I have tracked with your program and obviously getting to work with your people and seeing your vision. Have you kind of found out that as you started to trial a lot of products that maybe you were kind of a broader spectrum program, and as things kind of prove themselves out and you started to whittle those down, have you seen some advantages just in the tracking of the performance of the products? And were you able to kind of narrow things down? Because I know there's a lot of opportunities to do similar things to what you're doing. And so how did you vet all that through?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yes, like I said, I actually have a slide that is over 200 companies in this biological and biostimulant space. So it's really a lot. I mean, we only have so many years as farmers. I've got another 20 years and I'm going to be done farming, but so there's only so many trial periods. So what we kind of do our process at Farmer's Choice is we want to understand the company, what the background is and who the people are and why. And then if we want to find, like I say, how we kind of aligned was I'm looking for the best sugar, and you guys have the best sugar. You have a product that is derived from cane molasses, and that's the one I wanted. And you guys have a corner on the market for that. So it was a great opportunity to come together. But our process basically is we come into a trial period and we want to observe it first year, repeat it second year, and then we'll move it into our portfolio. So we've got really 2 years of vetting, and sometimes it's a challenge for some of these manufacturers that come to farmers and say, hey, you know what, we believe here's our data, here's why we think you should move it into your portfolio, and we look at that data. But at the end of the day, my answer back was we're going to put it through our testing before I really move your product. And we did that with QLF. We did that. We spent the time and vetted it and saw the benefit. And like I say, it's small test trials or backyard trials. It's actually full field trials. And that's how we kind of vet these products and bring them into our portfolio.
Addie, you see there's a couple questions there. You can go ahead and read them if you like.
Perfect. What is the Brix number that you should shoot for on the refractometer?
That's a great question. And for some reason, maybe I went by that slide or we pulled it out, Tim. But so here's what I can tell you on Brix. And like I said, this is coming from academia as well. If we can get above that 10 Brix, 10 to 12, we're going to mitigate a lot of insect pressures. We're going to start mitigating a lot of that disease pressure, pathogen pressure. We get it above 14. Actually, we deal with a lot of grasshoppers in Western North Dakota and Eastern Montana. I mean, they literally just, they're spraying 4 or 5 times to control grasshopper in soybeans. And at the end of the day, we get that Brix up above, 14, 12, 14. We're mitigating a lot of that pressure from like a grasshopper. So as far as the numbers, yes, get it above 10. And that's a measure of plant health as well, which correlates to obviously that disease mitigation. And actually, I didn't have a picture here today, but I've been doing, I fight a lot of white mold in my soybeans. And I spent a lot of money on chemistries to control white mold. And at the end of the day, year over year, I'm seeing a benefit of less incidence of a white mold that's very detrimental to me in North Dakota under irrigation. And like I said, I'm hoping to get to the point where I'm not using any chemistry or fungicide applications and just getting to the point where I've got a healthy plant in that high Brix level. But the goal, yes, above 10. If we can get above 14, that would be fantastic to mitigate a lot of these pathogens and insects. And Tim, you can elaborate on that as well, I think.
Well, I've been taught that with Brix, you should compare like kind crops and kind of keep a journal and some historical perspective, like, where I was at a certain growth stage from the last year. But I guess the answer is kind of broad for me. It's as big and as nutritious as you can make the plant sap and get that Brix level higher, which is it's more than sugar. It's dissolved solids. QLF does a nice job of explaining that. We handle a lot of high Brix material. So yeah, as big as you can get foster that, plant health. There is truth in this. There's a science to support it. It's not a hoax or make believe. There are a lot of people getting a lot of press now about, hey, I can improve my Brix and my plants. I'm more resilient against pest attacks. It's not being perfect. It's really about discouraging the insects from eating your crop and maybe taking it out on the neighbor. That's the advantage we have. So anyway, keep going along here. There's some awesome questions coming in. You can keep reading them, Maddie. This is really good.
Perfect. The next question is, how are you tackling fields that come back with lower soil tests with the goal of reducing synthetic fertilizers?
Question, and actually just had a conversation with a guy here the other day. I don't know if I talked to you about this, Tim, but anyways, 30-year span of a build program on phosphorus. And once again, we measure phosphorus in these soil tests such as a Bray or Olson or Malik. So his phosphorus start number 30 years ago is the same number in a build program for 30 years of building phosphorus is the same number when he started in a parts per million. So really it's to me quite arbitrary as far as phosphorus. Now we use a soils lab that we look at actually that total pool of phosphorus, and surprisingly, my soil, I've got 2,700 pounds of phosphorus. Now it's tied up. We call that the bank vault. And how we access that phosphorus is by the biology in our soil, moving it from those pools, the total pool, the inorganic pool, the plant available pool. That's a process of biology. So once again, how do we stimulate biology? How do we get biology working in our favor? And like I say, bringing carbon-based products such as Boost. And like I say, what Boost is sugar. That's a weeock. That's food for the bugs. But at the end of the day, as far as these low soil tests, once again, if we can bring use efficiencies in these applied nutrients, here's what I can tell you today. Most of the studies come back as on a map. We're here in North Dakota. We're only getting 20 to 30% of the applied map we're putting down. So if I can make that more use efficient by bringing it with a carbon, I'm going to pick that up. So as far as mitigating low soil tests, it's really arbitrary on a parts per million, I believe. We look at metrics such as WEOC. We look at metrics such as carbon to nitrogen ratio, that really help us drive decisions as far as what we can reduce in our fields here in North Dakota. I don't know if that answered the question or not, but bring carbon, you can lower your inputs.
I think, to answer that question too a little bit more, take incremental steps. Don't just do something radical and, reduce by 25% or 50%. I was taught a long time ago that we really have to do a good job of separating soil correction from crop fertilizer, because mostly farmers have to, work with crop fertility in that year to make it from year to year. If you have some extra resources, or ability to invest in your soils, then that's kind of soil correction. But definitely like small incremental steps. You don't want to come into a field that is deficient and just pull the rug out from under it. And that's kind of the approach that QLF Agronomy takes, is to be very conservative in those first reallocation strategies. But to Steve's point, there is a lot more fertility that is locked up in our soils and we're able to get out of an extraction in a lab. There's more out there, and as biology improves your soil aggregate and your tilth, you see these nutrients becoming more available just by improving the energy that's getting cycled through your soil. So I'm not surprised that you're not seeing year 2 and 3 much better than the first year, because you've given biology an opportunity to thrive, and they're going to make all the nutrients more available. So
yeah, and I would second that in regards to our approach. Yes, every 10% loss in yield equates to a 50% loss in farm profitability. We can't give up yield, especially in tight commodity years. So yes, the approach is to incrementally move towards that reduction, and don't jump off the cliff. Don't because we've got to really balance these. And like I say, we got to get the soils working in our favor, and it may take some time to do that. So absolutely, don't advocate for someone, hey, cut your fertility in half and you're going to grow this big crop. There's things like I say, when I go back to that pie chart, if I'm spending 40% of my farm dollar spends on fertility, that I'm only getting 20, how do I make those fertility inputs more use efficient? Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. And like I say, it's tying back to a carbon type product, delivering those with carbon.
Perfect. Okay, the next question is, have you seen a reduction in glyphosate flash in soybeans with the boost? Was that what was on the slide?
That was glufosinate. That was a Liberty. And I think on the one slide, Tim, what was the other slide? Was that must look like a Basagran type flash?
That was actually like a FlexStar program, volunteer corn killer, which is categorized in the burner chemical family, but chances are they're probably stacked up with 2 or 3 way mixes, right? So there's a lot of Enlist that has Liberty as a 2-pass program. There's a shot of glyphosate in a lot of those mixes. So to answer Brian's question directly, like, yes, we've seen a drastic reduction in the time that glyphosate is being processed and metabolized by just using boost. But there's some physical injury type chemistry, and then there's some that are hidden, like metabolic, like yellow flash. So yeah, absolutely, we've seen those for over a decade. So
Okay, next question. Do you have other unusual or unconventional products that are a part of your system? And is your system pretty consistently the same on most farms besides adjusted nutrients based on soil health results, soil test results, excuse me?
Yes, so we're bringing in a multi kind of faceted approach. Yes, we're looking at some of these biologicals and biostimulants along with our carbon-based products from QLF. Every farm can be different, and yes, we'll adjust if we have soil tests from our lab. We'll be able to further define the Ag Vision program instead of just shooting into the dark. But if we can do these things and bring them, steps 1 through 5, we may mitigate some of those steps based on conditions out there. Here's what I can tell you about biological activity or biologicals, bugs in a jug is 1, bugs need air. They breathe just like us. So they take in, oxygen and release CO2. That's how we measure them. So if I've got compaction events in my soil, where I'm not getting air down to that profile, I'm mitigating that investment of adding bugs in a jug. So we take all those things into consideration as we look at these fields for growers. You know, big thing is obviously food source. Obviously, you know, that WEOC, water extract organic carbon. If we can't make WEOC, if I don't have biomass that's breaking down and forming WEOC, I'm going to starve those bugs and they're going to go dormant. And now I'm living off that synthetic applied nutrient and I run out of gas in the tank. So we're using tools like that in the Ag Vision program.
And just a second, like, you know, I think a follow-up to this question. Yeah, obviously everybody can sense that Steve Knorr is pretty excited about Boost, but looking outside into their program, they've vetted through a lot of different unconventional products, you could say, not the majority, but it's becoming a little more recognized and accepted that there's seed treatments with biologicals and biostimulants. There's, you know, every pass that they're making, they're trying to find a way to keep plant health up here, you know, at a premium. And so, yeah, I think Farmer's Choice has a pretty nice portfolio that they've put together. I'm excited to work with them because a lot of you that are dealers of ours out there, we're a supplement to your other programs. You know, QLF doesn't cover all your bases. We've developed a product portfolio that does cover a wide range of applications based on, you know, consumer needs and wants. But, you know, we're a supplement to Farmer's Choice and the program that Steve and his team has built. So yeah, there are probably more products that he could have plugged in this hour presentation, but it's got to fit with his mission and his vision. And obviously, that was the take home here too. So.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the challenge. When we work with companies like QLF, they've got a great product, Boost, and we love Boost. And you know, how can I bring that with other products that are in the market space that QLF does not manufacture? And I you know, case in point, digesters. So a lot of guys are looking at a biological digester, spraying down on that corn stove or wheat fodder and breaking that biomass down in the fall of the year, early spring. And what we found is we actually use, you know, we brought Boost in with our digesters, and we're improving the breakdown of that biomass faster and creating more WEOC, which allows for more nutrient cycling. So we've taken a product like Boost and brought it into another product that is doubled the benefit.
Perfect. So there is no additional questions. So yeah, I just want to thank all of you guys for hopping on today and taking the time to listen to Steve. There will be more webinars here in the future. Like I said, this is a series, so follow our Facebook page for updates on those upcoming webinars. And yeah, if you have any questions, this webinar will be shared with all of the attendees and everyone who signed up. So if you have any questions, I'll be sharing contact info with you guys through that email. So thanks again.
Thanks, Maddie. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.